Welcome to another episode of the Hungry Trilobyte podcast. My name is Aaron Bossig, and I'm going to be your host. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Kevin Stark and the Toy and Action Figure Museum in Pauls Valley, Oklahoma. There's going to be a lot of really cool stuff in this episode, and a lot of things worth talking about. If you find the need to talk about anything on this or want to join the discussion, you can either leave comments on our YouTube page, or if you find YouTube comments to be just a bit too toxic, you can go ahead and check out the comments section on our blog, www.aaronbossig.com. Now, without further delay, the Toy and Action Figure Museum and Kevin Stark. And we're live. I'm talking to Kevin Stark of the Toy and Action Figure Museum in Pauls Valley, Oklahoma. And thank you so much for having me.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. I like this place.
It is absolutely one of my favorite places in Oklahoma, and it is something that even people who are right here don't know about, but it's an action figure museum for the whole country.
Oh, yeah. We've actually, the whole world. We've had people from all over the world here, from 40 different foreign countries. I now have friends in Australia and Germany and New Zealand and France, all over because of the museum.
And they walk in the door and they say, we planned our trip around being here.
Sometimes.
That is astounding. And, I mean, when you see this, you understand why.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't understand what they're coming to see. Like an action figure museum, what's that? You know. So we get two different kinds of people. We get people that love action figures and know what they're going to see. And then other people who are like, what is an action figure museum? What does that look like? So we get those people too.
True. But you manage to cater to both crowds because you come in here and it doesn't look clinical, it doesn't look cold. It looks like somebody just had a party here.
Yeah, you know, it started with my collection, okay? And 90% of what you see in there is from my private collection. Mm-hmm. But I've been to other toy museums and things like that, and it's always about that one guy, what that one guy collected, whether it was Star Wars or whatever. And I try to bring in things that I'm not necessarily interested in at all, but I feel like the public would like to see. Mm-hmm. So there's a section on Barbie, you know, which if it wasn't for Barbie, we wouldn't have action figures. And then we've had things on My Little Pony and, you know, other things like that.
I had a really, really happy moment when I came in when I saw that mask display because that's something that people in my generation remember, but it probably wasn't anybody's top favorite,
right? But
it hits you right in that happy spot.
Right. Yeah, and see, that's the thing. We try to hit a lot of different areas, and I personally didn't know anything about masks, okay? But one of the board members loved it as a kid, and so he collected some stuff, and I actually had some stuff. I just didn't know what it was. And so we built a display about it, and a lot of people have been real happy with it.
Now, you've got some G.I. Joe stuff.
Yeah, and actually we have way more than what we have out. Mm-hmm. The 3 3/4 Real American Hero Joes, we have got a ton of that stuff. We've got 2 complete USS Flags, the aircraft carrier.
Oh my Lord, you could practically take a nap on that thing.
Yeah, that thing's like 6 feet long, you know, whatever. It's huge. And we had a big display of that stuff for a couple of years. But we trade stuff out, you know, so that if you come to see the museum again, you get to see something different, something new. So, you know.
There was a point at which somebody at Hasbro sat down and actually declared, because they have the mask license now, that mask was a subdivision of G.I. Joe.
Oh, really?
I want to have that job.
Yeah,
I mean, if that's all you do that day and you get paid for it, that's the gig to have.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've had a pretty good job in action figures too. So,
True enough.
You know, designing toys has always been fun. So, you know.
So, the USS Flag, how do you store that?
Well, it comes apart. Mm-hmm. So we store it in pieces. Okay. You know, we've just taken it all apart. There's a whole section of our attic that is devoted to just G.I. Joe stuff. So we have a lot of the vehicles, the play sets. We've got the space shuttle, you know, all that stuff in one section of our attic. And then we also have a lot of the 12-inch tall stuff. So
The bedroom collector diorama is probably my favorite because every time I come in, I see something different there.
Yeah, well, I'm adding to it every week, so you know. And it's funny because the museum's been open for 13 years, and to go back and look at old photos of when we first opened, and that bedroom diorama was not near as full as it is now. And there are thousands of toys in there now, so you know.
I noticed today the Incredible Crash Dummies action figure there, which is this little pink card in the middle of the sea of unrelated cards. That was another favorite of mine when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've got.
I think I was the only one. I kept the entire line afloat, probably. But
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, we have a lot of that stuff too. We just haven't put it out yet. So we have 7,000 square feet, and we could fill a 30,000 square foot facility. We have another building just full of toys, a whole building.
oh my lord!
So you're looking at just part of our collection.
So it's like the warehouse from the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. And I'm going through it and putting everything in order so that when I do want to do a display, I know immediately where to go. Used to, I had it in 3 or 4 different buildings, and I just finally put everything together in one building. And now we just periodically go through and, you know, straighten everything up, clean it up, put it in tubs, mark it, and store it. So we just are always doing that. So, and then the building also is a good place for us to clean toys, fix toys. We get some donations that are just like trash bags full of stuff. And the people think it's junk, but really it's a lot of times it's the bits and pieces we need to fill out other things. So we welcome all donations. So we'll even come get it.
So maybe if somebody wants to send some through the mail, they could do that too, because
Yeah.
the podcast is going to go global.
Yeah, if they want to send it through the mail, you know, we're at 111 South Chickasaw Street, Pauls Valley, Oklahoma, 73075. So, you know, we've gotten donations, through the mail. So
The one part of the museum that never seems to change is the giant Batman exhibit. Batman just is the quintessential action figure, probably.
yeah, you know, Batman just has a lot of stuff, okay? And since 1966, he has had tons of collectibles, tons of toys, action figures, play sets, vehicles, you name it, he's got it. So, and, you know, he's one of my favorites, so.
It's hard not to like Batman.
Yeah.
It really...
How can you not like Batman?
Yeah, it's like, even if you don't like this kind of stuff, you kind of dig Batman every once in a while.
He's one of those characters that you can change his look dramatically, and it still works. I mean, think of all of the different versions of Batman, and they all still work. Now, I don't think you can do that with Superman.
No.
Superman is super iconic. Mm-hmm. You know, his costume needs to be the Christopher Reeve costume. But, you know, of course, now he's wearing a rubber suit and, you know, whatever.
Well, I mean, I don't know, somebody who's not really into action figures might not know about the Batman curse, which is, you know...
There's a Batman curse?
There is a Batman curse.
Oh, I didn't.
Okay, and that is that when you create a Batman toy line, you eventually get to the point where every single wave is a bunch of variations on Batman and then one other character. And it gets so hard to get any character that isn't Batman because, like, think back to the 1989 Dark Knight line, where, you know, you have the grappling hook Batman and Shadow Wing Batman and Fireproof Batman and Surfer Batman and Forest Ranger Batman and, oh yeah, by the way, you have a Joker too. And then you had Bob the Goon.
Right.
I was thinking Simpsons for a minute.
Yeah.
And it gets so hard to get another character that isn't Batman.
Well, those toys you're talking about are geared for the younger kids. And they don't want villains, they want Batman, you know, and they want all these different variations of Batman, or so toy companies think. There's always that one figure they put out that's like the basic Batman. That's the one I'm always looking for. I want the one that looks like Batman. But then, you know, you get all those other variations. But, you know, the fact that they did that is what started Todd McFarlane on doing Viking Spawn and, all these different versions of Spawn. As a joke, he did that, and then it became a thing. And now lots of people seem to do that, so who knows? They may have started a trend.
Let's hope so.
Well, we always say we had a display for a while that had the different versions of Batman. It had Batman in the animated series, Batman from the movies, Batman from the TV series, and then the who knows what they were thinking Batman, and so we kind of make fun of the fact that there's all these different, Dayglow Batman. You're just like, really? Would Batman ever wear that? So.
Yeah. The Legends of the Dark Knight line from the late 90s was kind of that in quintessence. Because, there were some that they were action figures that you'd wanted them to make forever, and it was like their excuse to finally make that. Right. And then there was like Pirate Batman, where...
Egyptian Batman.
I was about to say
and there
Egyptian.
Was a Viking Batman. There was the Archer Batman. He looked like Robin Hood. There were all kinds. Yeah, it was a future Batman. That one was actually kind of
cool. The one where he was like fencing Batman or something, and his arm was permanently put in that position. It's like
you could twirl it around.
Yeah, it's like, well, that figure will never look natural in any pose but that one.
Right.
Which, sculpt becomes an issue too, and that kind of gets down to another thing people don't think of is that there becomes a combination of art and engineering with action figures because people who are into them want them to look good and function well, and you can never really get the right combination of both.
Well, it's hard because making toys is just like making movies. All along the line, there's all these people that want to put their mark on it. There are all these people that have an opinion or whatever about, what should go into that toy. And so you're trying to please a lot of times executives that really have no business putting their thoughts in it. They're just people at a toy company, They're like, lawyers or accountants. And you're just like, really? Why do you get to put your 2 cents worth?
Yeah, that...
So.
A lot of people, like, just to go back to Batman for a second, people will say Joel Schumacher ruined the 4th Batman movie, and I'm like, I think Kenner did, actually.
You think what?
I think Kenner did.
Oh, yeah, well, maybe, yeah. Personally, I think he ruined the 3rd one and 4th one.
I'll take that. I kind of like the 3rd one for what it was, but I think the 4th one was all about let's sell a lot of Happy Meals. Let's sell a lot of action figures.
Yeah, well... come on, Star Wars, I think, is just as guilty of that.
Oh, yeah. Episode 1 was all action figures.
Right. Well, and there's the requisite cute characters for the little kids. There's, the robots. We have to do the robots. And then there's, the good guys and bad guys, whatever. And lots of vehicles. And, so, I'm all about the toys, so... the more the merrier for me. I may not collect them all, but, I like to have the opportunity.
So if somebody who really, really likes toys and you still buy them to this very day, do you lament the loss of really good play sets? It seems like that's something we don't get as much as we used to.
Yeah. I think the thing that upsets me the most is the cost. You can't go buy a decent action figure these days hardly for less than $20.
That's very true.
And a lot of times $21 to $25. And I remember KB Toys where they would have 3 for $10. Then they'd do a sale 2 for $5. For $10 I got 4 action figures. Well, I love that. But nowadays, it's really seems to be more geared for the collector market, and they just think, oh, well, collectors will spend anything. They'll pay anything for this. But it's distressing to me because
it is.
I can't get all the figures I want and still kind of maintain some kind of budget.
I can't tell you how many times I've saw something like that, and I thought, that is really cool. It is not $20 cool. It is certainly not $50 cool if it comes to that. And so I think they're chasing away a lot more collectors than they might be getting that way.
Yeah, I think so. But I was started buying action figures because the comics got so expensive.
Yeah.
Comics became like $3 a piece. Now they're $4 a piece. And when I started buying comics, they were 15, 20 cents. I can't see the increase has really meant, you know, been warranted that much.
Mm-hmm.
But for back then, when I started collecting action figures, for another dollar, I could have an action figure, instead of a comic book.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of quit collecting comics and started collecting action figures and toys. And now I'm thinking, well, what's the next step? Because I can't, afford all these. Well, I can afford all these, but I don't want to afford all these. It's taking the fun out of it sometimes when you have to sit there and think, can I afford this?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, originally, if you were into comic books, it was because it was a cheap hobby.
Yeah.
They were cheap. They were just, I would say, disposable.
You wanted to follow the story. You wanted to follow the characters. I mean, to me, the thing that ruined comic books are two things: the price and the fact all the big events. Okay, in that, if you want to read this storyline, you've got to buy Green Arrow number 25. You got to buy Batman number 6. You got to buy Superman number what? It's like I can't keep up. It's like I wanted to read that story when it first started, but now it's like I'm not going to buy all these different comics just to keep reading this one story. So I just wait till they all come out in a graphic novel and I'll buy that.
That's the way to do it. Especially, in the days before the internet was big, if you didn't have a good comic store who could get those comics for you, you were, going to the Piggly Wiggly and trying to see what they had that week. If they ordered that comic, which they might not have.
Yeah, when I was a kid, comics came out on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the local drugstores. And there were 3 or 4 drugstores that a buddy of mine and I ran to each one of them. And we had to wait sometimes for the ladies to cut the binding on them and put them out. It's like, well, we're not going to do that till this afternoon. It's like, But now, you had comic shops. And now comic shops are going out. So, it's hard to keep up sometimes.
It really is. I'm starting to think it used to be a convention was something you went to because it was this big event. It was special. And now it's like that might be the only place to get the stuff you really want to get.
Right. Yeah, that or Amazon or eBay. And I'm sorry, I don't like to shop online as much as I like to go and see this stuff. I may be old-fashioned, but I like to hold it in my hand and see, is this what I want? Is this what I'm looking for? So
comic books, you also get into the situation where the shipping becomes cost prohibitive unless you're buying a lot of them. And, I don't want to sit down and order 50 comics at a time just so the shipping cost works out in my favor.
Right, yeah. Well, still, you're talking a lot of money there.
You certainly are.
So I don't know.
It's weird, comics, action figures. I would even throw video games under this bus. That it starts out being something you do because it's semi-affordable, and the commercialism just jacks up everything out of the reach of the common person.
Yeah, well, every company wants to make their bucks, and so it's going to come about that more companies will jump in on what they see as a fad or a trend, and then you see every market will drop out. It's like, oh, there are too many comics with embossed silver covers and all this crap in the 90s, and the bottom fell out of the comics market. And then there was the trading cards, and everybody and their dog were making trading cards, and then nobody wanted them anymore because there were too many of them, so maybe action figures went the same way, and now it's just collectors buying them. So,
yeah.
Because in the 90s there were a lot of action figures.
And, when I go shopping at a convention, I tend to see not only the same lines, but sometimes the same figures for those lines. No matter what vendor, where I am, they're still mint in the package because that particular figure was just a misstep.
Right. Well, or a lot of the 90s Star Wars stuff, I get this in the museum all the time, people saved it and kept it all in the package. And they even boxed it up or put it in tubs or whatever. And they said, in 20 years I'm going to make millions of dollars off of this. and they'll bring them in wanting me to buy them for thousands of dollars, and I said, I'll give you $2 a piece for them. I'm sorry, but we sell those in the gift shop. I mean, everyone and their dog has collected those things, so they're not really worth that much. I mean, there are a few pieces, but I remember Slave Leia going for $100, and now I can buy her for $2 or $3. So come on.
How often does somebody come in with something that's graded that they want an extra high dollar for?
Well, they don't even have to be graded. I had, after Michael Jackson died, a lady, I was telling somebody this the other day, a lady came in the museum with a Michael Jackson doll, and it didn't have even all of its accessories, and she wanted to sell it for enough money to remodel her kitchen. I laughed. I said, I'll give you $3 for it. I said, I got 2 or 3 right over there, So, people, when you have shows, TV shows like Antiques Roadshow, the Toy Collector Guy, and all that kind of stuff, they make it seem like every toy and action figure is worth tons of money. And that's not the case, I'll go to flea markets and stuff, and you got people selling He-Man figures for $20 a piece that, are broken or don't have any accessories, and I'm like, it's not worth that. What do you think you're doing here? It's just, that those kind of shows make the market worse. Because every mom and pop thinks they have, a wealth of toys at their disposal, and they don't. It's just junk, so to speak.
And you also have the things like the BuzzFeeds and the Yahoo of the world where they'll put out some article that gets picked up on Facebook and Twitter that's like, this toy from your youth is worth $1,000, and number one, it's probably not from your youth because I guarantee you didn't have that.
Yeah.
It's some prototype that they made 3 of that, and
yes, the missile firing Bubba Fett. I mean, come on. Look, I don't collect for the monetary value. Okay, I don't collect for the investment. I collect because I love it. I collect because I have fun with it. All right, I don't sell stuff to make money. I rarely ever sell stuff, but I've had people, collectors come in and they'll be saying how there's this they want or that they want, and sometimes I've got 2 or 3 or 4 of them, and a lot of times I'll just give them one, So it's like, look, it's just sitting in a box. I said, I'd rather have somebody enjoying it than it sitting in this box, So I'll just give it away sometimes, I mean, I've sold a few things, but I don't collect to sell and make money. That's just not my style. I don't like that.
well, as you've already pointed out, I mean, the bubble in which you can actually sell something for a profit is usually very, very small.
Right.
And these things they're mass-produced in giant numbers. The things that are actually worth money are worth money because nobody expected them to be worth money.
Exactly. Right. And that's what I'm saying. When people think the Star Wars stuff or the Batman stuff or whatever is worth a lot of money, you got to, weigh how many of these did they make and how many survived. Because once the collector market became aware, then they started hoarding these things and saving these things and keeping them in great shape. Well, the reason a lot of toys of our youth are worth money is because they were still considered toys. They weren't considered collectibles. And so kids busted open the package, they played with them, they threw them against the wall and all that, to where very few survived to be in mint condition. So if you found something great in mint condition, yeah, it was worth a lot of money. But the other side of that story is you got to find somebody willing to pay it, So you can say all day long, this toy's worth $1,000, but if you don't have someone buying it for $1,000, it's not worth it.
Aaron's the only one who's going to want that Crash Dummies action figure.
Yeah.
You can put whatever price tag you want. Your audience is me.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I've got tons of Crash Dummies.
Good to know. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, keep that in mind. Yeah, Christmas is coming up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, I tell you, I'm sure you want to get back to the museum. but I'm having a great time there today. I really hope a lot of people come and check it out. Where can people follow the museum if they're not in Oklahoma? Keep tabs on what you're up to.
Well, we have a Facebook page, and we also have a website, actionfiguremuseum.com. So those are good places to check us out. We've got some events coming up this summer. In fact, later this month, we're celebrating Batman's 80th birthday. So
Very cool.
Since I'm a big Batman fan, that ought to be a big deal. I think I'm going to give myself some free Batman figures.
Yeah, I think you can probably fit
and
that into the
probably
budget.
Some to the public too. But
If they come on and show
I'll
up.
be buying some Batman. So, I mean, just to celebrate his birthday, right?
Absolutely, no other reason.
No other reason.
Not that it just looks cool on your desk or anything.
No. And then maybe we'll have a birthday cake, stuff like that for him.
Very cool. Very cool.
I'm also big on cake.
Okay, now part 2 of the podcast will be on cake.
Oh, okay.
Maybe we'll get to that next time.
Next time.
Okay, so I'm going to go and take another look around the museum, and thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here.
Well, thanks, Aaron. It was fun.
Anytime. I would like to thank Kevin for taking time out of his day to speak with me and show me around the museum. This episode should be available on or very shortly after June 6, 2019. If you're getting it shortly after that period, I would really, really encourage you to go check out the Facebook and Twitter pages for the museum and find out if you can make it to that Batman event that he's going to be having. Sounds like a great time to me. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.